Welcome everyone, I'm your teacher Mr. Moore, and in this video, I'm going to go over one of the most important but often least understood parts of our government, our legislative branch. Over the next few weeks, you're going to work on a public awareness campaign, and one of the most significant resources you will have at your disposal are the people who represent you in both our state and federal legislature. This video is going to go over who they are, how we chose them, and the role that the legislative branch plays in our government. So what is the legislative branch? The legislative branch is one of our three main branches of our government. They consist of two chambers, the House and the Senate. And one of their biggest things is they help separate the power of our government, just like the executive branch does, just like the judicial branch does. All three of these work together to create what we know as our government. More importantly, though, they are in charge of creating law. So what else do they do? One thing they do is they have what is called the power of the purse. That means that Congress is the one who's in charge of collecting taxes from citizens and spending the money as they see fit. So if someone like, say, our president wants to build a giant wall at our southern border, he has to go through them, and they have to be able to decide whether they want to do it or not. They are also the ones who declare wars. So the president may decide, hey, this country is giving us a lot of issues. I think we might need to go and fight with them to prevent them from doing whatever they're doing. He may be able to want to do that, and he may be the one who leads our armies, but he cannot officially declare war without the approval of Congress. So if the president wants to invade another country or fight another country, he goes to Congress and asks Congress, hey, can I do this? They're the ones who are going to decide, yes, they can, or no, they can't. They also have the power to impeach the president. So if the president does something wrong, if he, what the government says, commits high crimes or misdemeanors, the legislative branch, both the House of Representatives and the Senate, are able to hold an impeachment proceeding to see whether he should be removed from office. This is actually happening right now in our country. So far, the House of Representatives is looking into issues in the Ukraine that involve the president and are deciding whether there is enough information that and enough evidence that he did actually commit a crime to go through a full impeachment proceeding. The Senate are the ones who listen to the evidence, look at the evidence, and then vote on whether they want him removed from office or not. This has only happened 3 other times in our country, and none of the people that have been that have gone through impeachment proceedings have actually been removed from office. So how do we get them? Well, like I said, there are 2 different chambers in our Senate, the House of Representatives and our senators. The House of Representatives, there are 435 of them, and they are divided amongst states based on population size. Here is a map of how they're divided. As you can see, California has the most because we have the highest population, but even small countries like Montana or Alaska or Vermont still get representatives, even if they have tiny population sizes. So in this way, everybody has a voice, albeit some have a bigger voice than other voices. The Senate, on the other hand, is divided equally amongst the states. So right now there are 50 states, which means there are 100 senators divided equally amongst us. That means California has 2, Montana has 2, Vermont has 2, Alaska has 2, regardless of how big of a population size they have. Senators only serve every 6 years, but they're staggered out. So roughly 1/3 of our Senate is up for re-election every 2 years. However, our representatives all are up for re-election at the same time. More often than not, the same representatives that represented you before are going to go back into office, but as I'll show you in our next few slides, that is not necessarily the case, and it is up to you to decide whether your representatives stay in office or not. So what role do you play? Well, in this image, you can see kind of the power that people have versus their politicians. So you see a group of people standing on a plank with a politician hanging over the edge of a cliff. He's only there in power because the people standing on that plank are allowing him to be there. If they don't like it, if they decide to change, like that guy is leaving the plank, eventually that senator, that legislator, that representative will fall. So the power of your voice. The legislature may make laws, but you influence how you want them to vote. So, it is in their best interest to follow what their constituents want them to vote on. You're the people who are voting for them. You're the people who are keeping them in office. If they vote and make laws that the people in their towns, in their counties, in their districts don't like, you have the power to remove them by voting for someone else. However, if you don't raise your voice, if you don't speak up to what you believe in, they're never going to know what is important to you. That's why letter writing campaigns, protests, and petitions are a great way to make your voice heard in this country. If they don't know what you're speaking about, they're not going to know what to vote on. Lastly, voting is always the greatest way to affect change in the country. If you don't like your representative, if you don't like your senator, you need to make sure you go out into the voting booths every November and vote for someone different. You need to make sure you're voting for someone that represents really what you need. If you don't, you're always going to have someone who's speaking not for you, but for other people. So one example of the power of the constituent voice is SOPA and PIPA. These were internet neutrality laws that tried to dictate what you could and could not do on the internet. Particularly with SOPA, it made file sharing illegal. So this law was very, very controversial, and most citizens of the United States did not support it. So they all participated in a massive letter writing campaign. They called their senators. They made sure they made their voices heard that they do not support this issue. And it was killed for that reason. I posted a link to an article about these two laws and how they were killed in Congress in the Google Classroom. So please make sure you check this out at the end of this video to get a better idea of just how powerful your voice is. So next is the power of special interest groups. So you may think to yourself that your voice, you're only one person, your voice isn't powerful enough to really affect change. Well, that's where special interest groups come in. Special interest groups of groups of individuals who are advocating for the same cause that work together to help influence legislature. So it's that old adage that we are more powerful as a group than we are individually. They have when you group together, you have more resources at your disposal. You have more money. You have more influence. Legislatures are more likely to listen to you if you're not the only person who is speaking. So they're able to do things like marketing, lobbying, or donating to help push the positions of their legislatures in their favor. Now, this could either be a good thing or a bad thing. Both sides use this power to influence laws in our country. So one group is MAD, which is Mothers Against Drunk Driving. They're a special interest groups focused on changing alcohol laws to make things safer for us in our country. On the other side, we have the Oil Lobbying Group, which uses the lobbying power and their special interest group power and the power that special interest groups have to influence laws that benefit them and the oil industry itself. Now, as we know, oil is causing a lot of issues in our country, and we are trying to move away from oil into more alternative fuels. However, lobbying groups like ExxonMobil are really trying hard to prevent these laws from happening, because in their eyes, if these laws are passed, it is going to hurt the money that they are making. So both of these do the same thing in government, and both of them have tremendous power in what legislation has. However, one of them is doing it, at least in my opinion, for good, and the other one is not. Thank you all for watching my video. Hopefully this has helped you become smarter, more well-involved individuals. In the next few weeks, you're going to intimately involved in this process. So I really hope you have a good understanding of what the legislative branch is about. There will be a quiz going on this through Socrative, so if you have any questions, please discuss it with me in class. Thank you.